did not want to jump out the gym with some of the takes that I've seen regarding the Grizzlies and the head coach and John Morant and everything. I think there's a lot going on here. And I think it's a combination of different things that are happening that are putting them into a tough spot. It's obviously growing pains, right?
Mm-hmm.
Growing pains for almost everyone involved. If you ask any coach, they'll probably tell you the slide from the assistant coach chair to the head coach chair, one of the tougher ones. It becomes even more difficult if you are sticking with the same team. You would imagine probably easier. To a degree, you do have some built-in relationships, but your role changes. Your dynamic changes, things shift, and you are now trying to bring in your philosophy based on what you've seen that this team may need, based on what you do well, and you got to balance that out. With this Memphis Grizzlies team, we've seen during the highs and lows of the Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. era, success, hey, what's going on in the half court? Why is it only Ja Morant pick and roll? Hey, can they get something in the half court? We've talked about this over and over again. They tried something, didn't work. Now they're trying something else, and they're trying to figure it out. On the flip side, right? A lot of injuries in Memphis.
Yes.
A lot of injuries in Memphis. So we are having different lineup combinations than we expected. If we're running two-way motion and we're trying to have movement and we're building this out so we have more playmaking, more random cuts from the weak side, great timed passes, we're kind of supposed to have the playmaking of Ty Jerome and Scottie Pippen Jr. and the roles from Zach Edey and Brandon Clark. It's kind of grease the wheels a little bit. You also have a scenario where team is learning the new offense, the new philosophy, and you have a scenario where you're trying to figure out, how do I integrate some of this talent into this offense, into this philosophy? How do I blend that together? And I think that's, as a coach, can be a difficult thing because you are to enhance the team and make the most out of what you have. Sometimes if you have a philosophy, how do you balance that trumping what you have? Or can you get them to fit into that? What's the balance? What's the comfort like for everyone? And I think that's one thing that stands out when you watch the Memphis Grizzlies. There's a lot more thinking going out there than playing. And I think to me, that's one of those moments where you gotta understand and kind of give a little bit of grace because they end up being stagnant. They have less ball movement. They have more one-pass possessions. It doesn't end up well. Go ahead, guys.
No, I'm just glad you mentioned the discomfort because, like, that is the number one thing that's kind of stood out to me with their half-court offense at the very least. And, like, to quickly ground it with the Memphis Grizzlies, they're 25th in overall offense per clean the glass, 23rd in half-court offense. They are 4th in transition offense. They're 12th in frequency. The transition bit obviously tied to their defense, which has also not been very good. And the injury certainly hurt on that regard, but that... Oh, go ahead.
I think that's a big key of it. So even, they had success against Dallas, they were able to get stops, get out and run. We can balance things out. Against OKC, early on, we get stops, we get out and run, because I saw it after the game. I was like, oh, Memphis had a big lead. I wonder how they got there. Oh, this is a lot of transition kind of off missions. Okay. Okay. That type beat. So go ahead.
Yeah, OKC stopped missing threes, and then there went to transition opportunities, and then, oh no, they got to be in the half court more. So yeah, and that has long been across multiple coaches at this point in the Memphis era during the history of this podcast. It's, hey, the Memphis Grizzlies are like a top 12, top 10 offense. You look at the splits, oh, they're like 3rd in transition. They're like bottom 10 in half court offense. That's interesting. I wonder if they can figure that out. It's been like a consistent theme for us when we talk about them. And so the fact that they aren't getting the same amount of stops, to your point, Steve, like that puts more of a magnifying glass on the half-court offense. But the lack of comfort and the increase of thinking, I think, was a really good point from you. Because I look at how, like, Ja in particular has been at the center of this for multiple reasons at this point. But I think, one, to your point, it's tough to kind of build that kind of chemistry with all these injuries and stuff. It's probably even tougher to build this kind of chemistry and just general comfort with the system when you're also sprinkling in like the substitution patterns, which has been signified like, hey, we want to make sure we want to play high energy, we want to play fast, we want to keep you in shorter bursts so we can just kind of keep this pressure on, which makes sense to me logically. clearly there are questions about what level of buy-in everyone has with that kind of substitution style. But like, I think that also puts a wrench into, we know what we're doing because we don't know who we're playing with because of injuries. We don't know how long we're playing with the cast that we're currently playing with because we're getting subbed out. Then we can't get stopped. So we don't even, all the reps that we're getting with the half-court offense are against set defenses. And so it all just kind of snowballs together.
I think the substitution pattern is going to get interesting and something to monitor. And for me, it stood out when Memphis played Dallas, right?
Mhm.
And we're going to touch on the comfort point for Ja and Jaren Jackson Jr. because I think that was a really good one. But Ja Morant starts that game against Dallas, humming, 8 points, 5 assists. Grizzlies up 23-11 with 6:05 left in the first. Guess who leaves the basketball court?
Gonna guess it's Ja Morant.
Ja Morant. Comes back in with 2:47 left in the first. And so basketball is a rhythm sport. Logically, I understand taking Jaren out early. You bring Jaren back in to take Ja out. You bring Ja back. You create a wave. But it's a rhythm sport. And there's a little bit of feel and touch you got to have to where if a guy has it going, maybe I push him a couple more. If a guy doesn't have it going, maybe I pull him early and bring him back in. It gets hard because you need a set rotation to a degree, but guys have to know what's earning them their minutes. Guys have to, like, there are guys who play really well right off the bench or really well right off the starting lineup. There are some guys where it takes a couple seconds for them to get the beat of the game. And if this is a scenario where we're going up, down, up, down, up, down, or it's a foul fest, I didn't really get a feel. Now my time is up. That's hard. It's hard as well because I don't have an answer or a feel for what I did wrong. How did I help the team? You know, even me, I wasn't the best basketball player, but I knew my job was to go out there, defend, and play with energy and activity. If I was doing those things, I was probably going to play until this mark. If I did it well, I was going to get a couple more. If we didn't need it, I was going to come out earlier. I knew it.
Yeah.
I don't know how much they know about what brings them success on the court as opposed to an allotted amount of time. So it makes sense logically. From a basketball standpoint, it doesn't make you feel the best sometimes. Because, like, let me cook. And if you have 4 people saying, let me cook, grumbling a little bit, that can rise up. So that's something to keep an eye on.
No, I think that's fair. And I think that's where we can kind of ground it with Ja Morant. As we talk about the comfort, we talk about the skills, etc. So there's the stint portion, which was reportedly at least part of the conversation between him and Tomas that led to the 1-game suspension. That game against the Lakers got weird. It was also an interesting one, watching that one back. Because I didn't watch that game live. I just saw the reaction. I saw the clips, the post-game clip with Ja. I ended up finding like a longer one that was like 3 minutes long where he actually answered some questions, but then it was also just like, oh, well, okay, fine. But it's like, that happened. I was like, okay, let me watch this game and see what happened. Was Ja actually was he really disinterested to this degree? What happened? And so I watched that game and I came away like, okay, there were absolutely some pockets, particularly in the second half, where Ja could have been more engaged. And after giving the ball up, he could have been ready to cut because we've seen that before. Matter of fact, that he opened that Laker game. His first basket was literally a cut from the corner. I'm like, okay, he can be more active. He can probe a little bit more on these drives. But something that I talked to you about, Steve, in one of our watch parties, I was like, we probably could just give more credit to the Lakers for some of the gap help that they had and just the way they were able to build their shell. They didn't give up easy driving lanes. I think that frustrated Ja and Jaren. So while there was room to be more aggressive, the Lakers also did a good job of setting up shop. Which brings me to a broader point and a quick number I want to toss out, Steve. Ja Morant has seen a help defender or multiple help defenders on 86.5% of his drives per second spectrum. That is the top mark in the league among 41 players that have logged at least 100 drives to this point. Do you know what the overall Memphis number is for just the percentage of help they're seeing on drives?
What you got?
It's in the mid-70s. They're like 14th in terms of help defenders present. That should tell you what teams are prioritizing when they face the Memphis Grizzlies. You don't get literally any of this at the rim. And so to the overall comfort point, we've talked a lot about what is the 3-point shot for Ja is inconsistent. What is the mid-range game for Ja? The mid-range pull-ups are inconsistent. He was an elite scorer on floaters early in his career. Like, that hasn't been the case over the last year and a half. So you don't have the 3. You don't have the intermediate area. You quite literally can't get deeper into the paint without seeing 3 bodies. And this, when you get into like the post-game comment or someone in Memphis asked him like, hey, how do you kind of take in your kind of declining efficiency at the rim? And Ja, to shorthand, it was just like, when I was doing all this driving, y'all called me reckless. Now y'all don't want me to drive. Now y'all want me to drive like that again, which was funny to me. But it's also like, to your overall point, Steve, about building that confidence level and that comfort, where is he going to find it?
Well, here's the thing, right? It's an overall deal with the Memphis Grizzlies. And so one thing when you watch the Memphis Grizzlies, they like to have a lot of Iverson cuts. So they're going to loop people from the side, put them on the wing, have screeners in the middle of the floor. When you watch them, though, how many times you see them pointing to try and get people in the right spot? And to the overall comfort point, if you're waiting and you're trying to throw the ball to Jaren Jackson in the post off one of those Iverson cuts, you rip him in. Is that a double team now? And now are you moving the ball? You're able to make a defense pay. One of the hallmarks of this Memphis Grizzlies offense, even if they're pointing and trying to figure things out, is the cutting from the weak side. But if it takes 4 to 5 seconds to get into that action, get to that first screen, you need a drive. If teams are able to contain that drive, you need a cut from the wing. So that can be the beauty of it. When they get those cuts, things open up for them. But how much of the flow do they have? Because you want to go from one side, advance to the second side, get another screen, get another drive, and then play out of it. Teams able to help. What's the rotations look like? How many times can you get to what you want? And so the overall mindset you can see on the court. They want to get to that. But when it comes to having Ja on the court, right? You get to one screen, and now you get back to the other side. You're waiting. You're in rotation, and now it's Ja off ball, catching late in the clock. And now he's in a scenario where he has to create, and defenses are saying, hey, we're going to help. The passing helps. So I don't know if Ja gets enough credit for the passing. But you're looking at scenarios where we swing, we're pointing, trying to get to the next action. We're playing off of that. Teams are switching, keeping us in front. Shot clock is draining. And if Ja doesn't have the ball, it's a kick in for 3. Now it's a make or miss. So if he has it going, fantastic. We feel good. On the nights he doesn't, we feel bad. And so, we're waiting. Teams are going under and pick and roll, pressuring the ball handler. You have a scenario where you talk about the comfort, the mid-range shot is there. And now this becomes Ja Morant has to take these. Ja Morant has to make these. Because if I do get dropped, I got to take this shot. I got to get to my spot. Because if we're going to switch and I have this comfort and I have this wiggle room, this is the next evolution for me. So I don't have to drive every single time. But how comfortable does he feel getting to those areas? When he's at his best this season, gotten downhill, got the floater going, got a couple mid-range pull-ups to go, and now we're humming a little bit. And that's kind of the Ja Morant getting downhill, being able to finish in the paint. That's his comfort level. But how many times is he being able to get to it? How many times is he being able to get to it? And so when you look at the efficiency, that takes away the fact that he's turning the corner and getting in the paint. And how much Memphis needs those passes, especially even if teams are going under. He's making that initial pass to help try and force them into rotation. And that's the balance. But to your point, I don't know how comfortable he is because you have defenses going under, ready to switch, and now you're hoping someone else makes play. And when he makes that kick, teams are helping off him. So when you have these high screens and you have 3 defenders meeting you in the paint, you got to make them pay. So does he get credit for making the reads, or are we just looking at the shooting percentages? And how much do you want the pull-up 3 to try and get a curveball to where, please, defend me higher on the court? And I think an underrated aspect is the Jaren Jackson Jr. portion, because his improvement has said, teams, we're going to show more help. That opens up shots for the Grizzlies, but it also takes away the drives a little bit. So if we try and go inverted for him, okay, we're just going to sit back. You can have this space. If he's a scenario where he catches a swing on the perimeter, there are like 2 or 3 defenders looking at him saying, hey, you don't get to drive either, buddy. Like, not you. And now that puts them in a position where they're getting later in the clock because of that. So you're taking Ja off the board to a degree. You're taking Jaren off the board to a degree. They don't have comfortable sets or actions where they can consistently get what they want. Everyone's trying to learn the system and pointing at each other to try and get in. There's injuries. It's a lot.
It's a whole lot. And I'm glad you flowed into Jaren there. Because Jaren has quietly been one of the most efficient or productive drivers in the league this year, Steve. The problem is that the volume is just way down from what it was last year. Last season, logged about 17 drives per 100 possessions last year. This year, that's around 10. It's really like 9.8 or something like that. So like you shave that off, even with the bump in efficiency for him, nearly 1.3 points per possession on those, which is insane. The fact that you can't get to them consistently is kind of tough. And even when you do, like some of these finishes from Jaren have been tough. You know what possession had me in a headlock? It intrigued me when I saw it live.
Which one?
But as I kept watching it back, I was like, ooh, this just feels like the Memphis Grizzlies in a nutshell. As we have this conversation, opening offensive possession for Memphis against the Thunder. It was Ja bringing the ball up the floor. You get Jalen Wells setting a pin down for Jaren Jackson Jr. It's like, okay, I like this. They're inverting the offense. That's cool. Now, this did come after Ja walking the ball up the floor. So Jaren gets this screen at 16. So to your point about it's taking X amount of time to even get to your first stuff. It's all right, cool. It's about 8 seconds before Jaren gets that screen. Cool, middle of the floor. As Jaren gets the ball, it is now Ja Morant flaring off of a screen from Jock Landale. KCP, who is in the left corner, he's kind of lifting up. It looks like it's like Spain, but it's not. But he's kind of clears that corner. And I pause. I'm just like, hey, I like this. You get Jaren involved early. You get Ja off the ball. You get Ja catching the ball on the move. He's going to have the entire left side of the floor. Let's see if we can beat you to a spot. I like the design of this. The problem is that, one, again, it took this long to even get into this portion of the program. Two, Cason Wallace is ducking under all of this. And so as Ja gets the ball and gets ready to set up the drive, Cason Wallace has met him on the other side, which hat tip to Cason Wallace, who's having himself one heck of a year. We talked about it on the pod. But it's just like, well, good design. None of this matters yet. But then we get to the next phase. Because of where Ja catches it and where Jock Landale is, cool. Empty side pick and roll with Ja Morant inside the three-point line with Jaren Jackson Jr. one pass away, which means if OKC is going to load this nail help that they'd like to do, it's coming from Isaiah Hartenstein instead of like one of the guards with the quick hands that can force turnovers. Like, okay, even structurally, I get that. Cool. You go with this pick and roll, Cason Wallace ducks under again. And it's like, well, darn. Or tries to duck under, ends up getting clipped by Jock. You pass it to Jaren Jackson Jr. He's attacking from the three-point line while KCP is now once again clearing space with a cut, to your point about Memphis trying to get to the cutting. Jaren finishes, but by the time he finishes, he's dealing with a contest from Isaiah Hartenstein. He's dealing with Chet Holmgren, who is now roamed to the basket. And it's just like, you zoom out, Jaren off ball, invert the offense, Ja Morant off a flare, Ja Morant empty side pick and roll, Jaren Jackson drive. You got the two best players involved, you got them involved off movement. Sounds good. OKC didn't care about almost any of it. And the shot that you actually got, points on the board, was a tough one. And it's just like, what? How am I supposed to feel about that? Because I like this, I don't like how they're being treated, and you got to build a boat out of this. It's just a tough spot. And so, like, I would like for them to get healthier. I would like for some of the, I guess, the non-Cedric Howard shooting to be better, because he's just been a real bright spot for them. We just talked about him on the Rookie Report, quick plug. But it's tough. It's tough for them. And I just want to see that get better.
Understood. It's not easy. But I think the volume in which I understand the takes, which one of these things opens things up for Memphis, if that makes sense, is the one for me. Is it more comfort? Is it getting healthy? Is it Ja being able to find comfort or make the shots? I mean, I think that sometimes if he's just able to make those floaters, have a hot night. Jaren Jackson Jr. is able to make some of those shots and get some more opportunities on drives. That could open things up. And there's a base. The second unit has more to work with within the flow of the system. So it's just kind of piecing it together.